At my baby shower, in front of everyone I loved, my mother-in-law stood up and announced that I wasn't good enough to carry her son's child. She didn't just question my character, she destroyed it, piece by piece, in front of 30 people. But what happened next? My husband Connor didn't just defend me. What he did was so shocking, so unexpected, that it didn't just end the party, it ended his relationship with his entire family forever. My name is Maya Rodriguez, and by the time the last guest left my baby shower that day, I realized I wasn't just married to Connor Blake. I was married to a man who would burn down everything he'd ever known to protect the woman he loved. And that's exactly what he did. This is the story of how one afternoon in Austin, Texas changed everything, and why sometimes the person you least expect becomes your fiercest protector when it matters most. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror that Saturday morning, 7 months pregnant, wearing a flowing lavender dress that made me feel beautiful for the first time in weeks. My hands rested on my belly, and I could feel Isabella, Bella, kicking like she was excited for her party too. The October sun streamed through our windows, casting everything in golden light. Our suburban Austin home was already decorated with soft pink and cream balloons, tiny elephant centerpieces, and a dessert table that looked like something from Pinterest. After months of morning sickness, swollen feet, and sleepless nights, I finally felt ready to celebrate. Connor had been amazing throughout the pregnancy, assembling the crib at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep, bringing me ice cream at midnight, talking to Bella through my belly every night before bed. We'd been together for 4 years, married for 2, and this baby felt like the perfect completion of everything we'd built together. My sister Sophia peeked her head into the bedroom, grinning. "Maya, you look absolutely radiant. Like pregnancy glow is real, and you're proof." I laughed and smoothed my dress. "I actually feel good today." "Think that's a good sign?" Sophia walked over and adjusted my necklace, her expression shifting slightly. "Are you ready for Patricia?" My stomach dropped at the mention of my mother-in-law. Patricia Blake had a talent for making me feel small, without ever saying anything directly offensive. She had a way of complimenting me that felt like criticism, of asking questions that felt like accusations. When Connor first introduced us, she asked if I was planning to keep working after marriage, as if my career in graphic design was some cute hobby I'd eventually outgrow. When we announced the pregnancy, her first response was, "Well, that was fast," followed by a tight smile. "I'm as ready as I'll ever be," I said, though we both knew that wasn't true. Connor always brushed off my concerns about his mother. "She just takes time to warm up," he'd say, or, "She means well, she's just protective." But I'd been waiting 2 years for her to warm up, and if anything, she'd gotten colder. The first guests started arriving around noon. My mom Carmen came early, arms full of homemade tamales and tres leches cake, immediately taking charge of the kitchen like she owned the place. My best friend Jenna arrived with a massive gift bag and enough energy to power the whole party. Cousins, college friends, neighbors, our house filled with laughter and warmth. Everything was perfect until the Blake family car pulled into our driveway. Patricia stepped out first, wearing a crisp white blouse and an expression that could freeze water. Richard followed, carrying a small gift bag and avoiding eye contact like he always did. But it was Connor's reaction that should have warned me. I watched from the window as his shoulders tensed, as he took a deep breath like he was preparing for battle. "They're here," I called to Sophia, who immediately appeared at my side. "You've got this," she whispered. "Today is about you and Bella. Don't let anyone take that away." But as I watched Patricia walk up our front steps, her eyes scanning our decorations with what looked like disapproval, I had a sinking feeling that this wasn't going to be the celebration I'd dreamed of. I just had no idea how wrong things were about to go, or that by the end of the day, Connor would have to choose between the family that raised him and the family we were building together. and that his choice would change everything. Connor Blake wasn't the type of man you'd expect to defy anyone, especially his own mother. When I met him 4 years ago at a coffee shop near UT campus, he was the quiet graphic designer working on his laptop in the corner, the one who apologized when someone else bumped into him. He was kind, thoughtful, and madly in love with his family. That's what drew me to him initially, how much he cared about the people in his life. But that closeness came with complications I didn't fully understand until after we got married. Patricia Blake had raised Connor and his younger sister Emma as a single mother for most of their childhood, after Richard left when Connor was 12. She worked 2 jobs, sacrificed everything, and reminded them daily of what she'd given up for them. When Richard came back 5 years later, apologetic and changed, Patricia took him back, but the family dynamic had already been set. Patricia was the decision maker, the authority, and everyone else fell in line. Connor adored his mother. He called her every Sunday, never made major decisions without consulting her, and genuinely believed she could do no wrong. "She's been through so much," he'd tell me whenever I gently suggested that maybe her opinions weren't always necessary. "She just wants what's best for us." The first red flag came during our engagement party. Patricia pulled me aside and said, "I hope you understand that Connor has always been sensitive. He needs someone who won't add stress to his life." It wasn't congratulations or welcome to the family. It was a warning disguised as concern. When we started planning our wedding, she inserted herself into every decision. The venue wasn't good enough, my dress was a bit much, and my family's traditions were interesting choices. Connor always found ways to smooth things over without actually addressing the problems. "She just wants to be involved," he'd say. "This is hard for her." But I loved him enough to bite my tongue. I convinced myself that once we were married, once we had our own life together, things would change. And for a while, they did. The first year of marriage was beautiful. We bought our house in Austin, Connor started his own design business, and I landed a job at a marketing firm I loved. Patricia kept her distance mostly. Then I got pregnant. Suddenly, Patricia was everywhere again. She had opinions about my doctor, my birth plan, the nursery colors, even my prenatal vitamins. "Are you sure you're taking enough folic acid?" she'd ask, like I was some teenager who'd stumbled into pregnancy by accident. When Connor and I announced we were having a girl and wanted to name her Isabella, Patricia's response was, "That's very ethnic. Are you sure?" The comment stung, but what hurt more was Connor's silence. He didn't defend the name, didn't defend me. He just changed the subject. My mother Carmen noticed the tension immediately. "Mija," she said one day while helping me organize baby clothes, "that woman treats you like an intruder in your own marriage." But when I brought it up to Connor, he got defensive. "She's just excited about becoming a grandmother. You're reading too much into things." My sister Sophia was less diplomatic. "Patricia treats you like you're borrowing her son instead of married to him," she said after a particularly awkward family dinner, where Patricia spent the entire meal talking to Connor about family memories that predated me. And Connor just lets it happen. That was the thing about Connor. He was conflict avoidant to a fault. He'd rather suffer in silence than rock the boat, rather make excuses than confront uncomfortable truths. It's what made him such a gentle, caring partner, but it also made him terrible at setting boundaries with his family. Richard was a different kind of problem. He barely spoke to me, but when he did, it felt loaded with judgment. He'd make comments about our house being ambitious for young people, or ask Connor if he was sure about all these changes, whenever I was in earshot. Unlike Patricia's direct approach, Richard's disapproval was subtle but constant. The baby shower was my idea, but Patricia immediately offered to help plan it. I should have said no. I should have recognized that her version of help always came with strings attached. But Connor was so excited about his mother being involved, so hopeful that this would finally bring us all together, that I agreed. I thought the worst thing that could happen was her criticizing my decorations or questioning my catering choices. I had no idea she was planning something that would force Connor to choose sides in a way that would destroy his family forever. The warning signs started 3 weeks before the baby shower, but I was too focused on nursery preparations and work deadlines to pay attention. Looking back, I should have seen Patricia's plan taking shape, piece by careful piece. It began with the guest list. I'd given Patricia the names and addresses of Connor's family members, thinking she'd simply send invitations. Instead, she called each person individually. My cousin Alex mentioned it casually when she RSVP'd. "Your mother-in-law seemed really concerned about you. She asked a lot of questions about how you've been handling the pregnancy, if you seemed stressed, if Connor seemed happy." When I asked Connor about it, he shrugged. "She probably just wants to make sure you're comfortable around everyone. You know how she worries." But Patricia's version of worry felt more like investigation. Then came the comments about my appearance. Every time she saw me, she'd study my face with this concerned expression. "You look tired, Maya. Are you sleeping?" Or, "You seem to be carrying differently than I did." Every pregnancy is so unique. The words themselves weren't offensive, but the way she said them, the way she'd glance at Connor afterward, made me feel like I was failing some test I didn't know I was taking. 2 weeks before the shower, Patricia showed up at our house unannounced while Connor was at work. She'd never done that before. She stood in our living room, examining the nursery setup through the open door, and said, "I brought some old baby clothes from when Connor was little. Just in case." "In case of what?" I asked. "Oh, you know. In case things change. It's always good to be prepared." She set down a box of tiny blue outfits, all boy clothes, even though she knew we were having a girl. When I pointed this out, she smiled tightly. "I always thought you were having a boy." Mother's intuition, I suppose. The most unsettling moment came 1 week before the shower. Connor had gone to grab takeout, and Patricia was helping me arrange flowers for centerpieces. Out of nowhere, she said, "You know, Connor's always been trusting. Sometimes too trusting. He sees the best in people, even when maybe he shouldn't." I stopped arranging and looked at her. "What do you mean?" "Nothing specific. Just that some people take advantage of good men like Connor. They see his kindness as weakness." She met my eyes directly. "I would hate for anyone to hurt him, especially now when he's so excited about becoming a father." The implication was crystal clear, but when I tried to tell Connor later, he dismissed it. "She's just protective. She's always been that way about me and Emma. It doesn't mean anything." But it did mean something. I could feel Patricia building a case against me, collecting evidence for an argument I didn't even know was coming. She asked Sophia pointed questions about my college relationships. She inquired about my work schedule, seeming particularly interested in the late nights and business trips I'd taken during my first trimester. She even asked my mother about our family's values regarding marriage and commitment. The day before the shower, I found out she'd called my doctor's office. When I asked Dr. Martinez about it during my appointment, she looked uncomfortable. "Your mother-in-law wanted to confirm your due date and ask about your general health." I couldn't give her specific information, of course, but she seemed very concerned about the timeline. The timeline. That's when it clicked. Patricia had been doing math, counting backwards from my due date to figure out exactly when I'd gotten pregnant. She was building toward something, and I finally understood what. That night, Connor found me sitting in the nursery, staring at the crib he'd assembled with such excitement just months before. "What's wrong?" he asked, settling beside me. "Your mother thinks I trapped you," I said quietly. "She thinks I got pregnant to force you into marriage, or to lock you down somehow." Connor was quiet for a long moment. Even if she did think that, which I'm not saying she does, it wouldn't matter. I know the truth. We know the truth. But as I watched him avoid my eyes, I realized Connor knew exactly what his mother was thinking. He'd probably known for weeks. And instead of shutting it down, instead of defending me, he was hoping it would just go away on its own. I should have canceled the shower right then. I should have confronted Patricia directly, or told Connor he needed to handle his mother before things went too far. Instead, I convinced myself that once everyone saw how happy we were, how much Connor loved me and our baby, Patricia's suspicions would seem ridiculous. I was about to learn that some people don't want to be proven wrong. They want to be proven right, no matter who gets destroyed in the process. The baby shower started beautifully. Our living room buzzed with laughter as 30 of our closest friends and family played games, shared stories, and celebrated Bella's upcoming arrival. My mom's tamales were a hit. Jenna had everyone crying with laughter during the Guess the Baby Food game, and Connor looked genuinely happy as he helped me open gifts. For 2 hours, I let myself believe that Patricia would behave. She'd been quiet but polite, complimenting the decorations and making small talk with my relatives. Even when she corrected my cousin about the proper way to fold receiving blankets, I brushed it off. Maybe Connor was right. Maybe she just needed time. Then we got to the last game. Advice for new parents. Everyone was supposed to write down their best parenting tip on a card, and I'd read them aloud. It was meant to be sweet, funny, personal. Instead, it became the moment Patricia had been planning for weeks. I picked up the first few cards and read them out loud. Sleep when the baby sleeps. Trust your instincts. Don't listen to too much advice. You've got this. Everyone laughed and nodded. Then I picked up a card written in Patricia's distinctive handwriting. Make sure you know who you can really trust, because your baby deserves parents who are completely honest with each other. The room went quiet. I stared at the card, reading it twice, trying to understand why it felt so different from the others. It wasn't advice. It was an accusation disguised as wisdom. That's interesting, I said carefully, setting the card aside. But Patricia wasn't done. She stood up from her chair near the back of the room, smoothing her white blouse, and cleared her throat. Actually, I have something more specific to share. Connor looked up from the gift he was helping me unwrap, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm. Mom, maybe we should... No, Connor. This needs to be said. Patricia's voice was calm but carried an authority that silenced the entire room. I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I can't keep quiet anymore. My heart started pounding. Sophia, who was sitting next to me on the couch, reached over and squeezed my hand. Patricia, she said firmly, maybe this isn't the right time. When is the right time? Patricia interrupted, looking directly at me. When the baby's born? When it's too late to ask the important questions? The air in the room felt thick. Guests were looking at each other uncomfortably, unsure whether they should leave or stay. My mom stood up from her chair, her protective instincts kicking in. What questions are you talking about? Patricia smiled, but it was cold and calculated. I'm talking about the timeline, Carmen. I'm talking about the fact that Maya claimed she was 6 weeks pregnant when she and Connor got engaged. But if you do the math from her due date, she was actually 8 weeks along. That means she got pregnant before Connor proposed. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I felt my face burn with humiliation and anger. Patricia, I'm not finished. Her voice got louder, more confident. I'm talking about how convenient it was that Maya suddenly had morning sickness right after Connor started talking about maybe waiting another year to get married. I'm talking about how she pushed for a quick wedding, how she insisted on a spring ceremony when Connor wanted to wait until fall. Connor finally found his voice. Mom, stop. You're way out of line. But Patricia was on a roll now, feeding off the shocked silence of our guests. I'm talking about a pattern of manipulation that I've watched for 2 years. The way she isolates you from family dinners, the way she makes decisions about your house, your business, your life without consulting anyone. And now there's a baby that conveniently seals the deal. I stood up slowly, my hands shaking. The room was spinning. 30 people I loved were watching me be torn apart by my mother-in-law, and I couldn't find words to defend myself. "You're saying I trapped him," I whispered. "I'm saying," Patricia continued, her voice steady and cruel, "that some women will do anything to secure their future. And I'm saying that Connor deserves to know the truth about who he married and whether this baby was planned or just opportunistic." The room erupted. Sophia jumped to her feet, shouting at Patricia. My mom started crying. Jenna was gathering people near the door, trying to give us space. But all I could see was Connor, standing frozen in the middle of it all, holding a baby rattle in his hands and staring at his mother like he'd never seen her before. And that's when everything changed. What happened next will stay with me forever, not because of the chaos or the shouting, but because of the silence that came right before Connor spoke. The room was in complete upheaval. Sophia was yelling at Patricia. My mother was crying. Guests were gathering their purses and heading for the door. But Connor just stood there in the center of it all, that baby rattle still in his hand, staring at his mother with an expression I'd never seen before. Then he set the rattle down very carefully on the coffee table. "Everyone stop," he said quietly. But his voice carried enough authority that the room actually went silent. Everyone just stop talking. Patricia looked triumphant, like she'd finally gotten the reaction she wanted. "Connor, honey, I know this is hard to hear, but no." The word came out sharp and final. "You don't get to talk anymore, Mom. You've said enough." He turned to face the room full of people, our friends and family who'd come to celebrate our baby, and instead witnessed me being destroyed. His voice was steady, but I could see his hands shaking. "I need everyone to understand something," Connor said. "My mother just stood up in my house, at my wife's baby shower, and accused the woman I love of trapping me into marriage with a fake pregnancy. She did math about my wife's body and my wife's choices, like Maya was some kind of criminal being investigated." Patricia's confident expression started to falter. "Connor, I'm just trying to protect—" "You're not protecting anything," he cut her off, his voice getting stronger. "You're destroying it. You're destroying my marriage, my family, and my trust in you." He walked over to where I was standing, still frozen in shock, and took my hands. "Maya, I need you to know something. I proposed to you because I couldn't imagine my life without you. Not because of any timeline, not because of any pressure, but because you're the only person I've ever wanted to build a future with." Then he turned back to Patricia, and what he said next shattered everything. "And since we're talking about timelines and truth, Mom, let me share something with everyone. Maya didn't trap me with this pregnancy. She actually tried to talk me out of having kids this soon. She wanted to wait another 2 years, focus on our careers, save more money. I'm the one who convinced her we were ready. I'm the one who said I couldn't wait to be a father." The room went dead silent. Patricia's face went white. But Connor wasn't finished. "And you want to know about manipulation? Let's talk about the phone calls. The ones where you tell me Maya seems different, or that you're worried about me. Let's talk about how you asked my wife's doctor about her due date. Let's talk about how you called our friends and family asking questions about Maya's pregnancy, like you were building a case against her." He stepped closer to his mother, and his voice dropped to something I'd never heard before. Cold, final, devastating. "Let's talk about how you've spent 2 years trying to convince me that the best thing that ever happened to me was actually the worst. How you've made the woman carrying your grandchild feel unwelcome in her own family. How you just humiliated her in front of everyone we love because you can't stand the fact that I chose her." Patricia tried to speak, but Connor held up his hand. "I'm not done. You want to know what manipulation looks like? It's a mother who can't let go. It's a mother who would rather destroy her son's happiness than admit she's not the most important woman in his life anymore. It's a mother who would sabotage her own grandchild's baby shower because she can't handle not being in control." The devastation on Patricia's face was complete. Richard, who'd been standing silently by the wall, finally spoke up. "Connor, that's your mother."
"No," Connor said, turning to his father. "A mother protects her child's happiness. A mother celebrates when her son finds love. A mother doesn't stand up at a baby shower and try to destroy the family he's building."
He looked around the room one more time, then back at Patricia. "You wanted to know the truth? Here it is. Maya is the best thing that ever happened to me. This baby is a blessing I thank God for every single day. And if you can't see that, if you can't respect my wife and my choices, then you don't belong in our lives." The words hung in the air like a final verdict.
"You need to leave. Now. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize and mean it."
The aftermath of Connor's words was immediate and devastating. Patricia stood frozen for a moment, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't process what had just happened. For 2 years, Connor had been her compliant son, the one who smoothed over conflicts and avoided confrontation. She'd never seen him like this, cold, decisive, and completely done with her behavior. "Connor, you can't be serious," she finally whispered, her voice cracking. "I'm your mother. I gave up everything for you. And I've spent my entire adult life trying to repay that debt," Connor replied, his voice steady but exhausted. "But I won't sacrifice my wife and child to keep paying it." Richard stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation. "Son, maybe we can all just calm down and talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about, Dad. Mom made her choice when she decided to humiliate Maya in front of everyone. Now I'm making mine." Patricia's composure finally cracked completely. "You're choosing her over your own family? After everything I've done for you?" The question hung in the air, and I watched Connor's face transform. The anger was still there, but underneath it was something deeper: grief, disappointment, and a clarity that seemed to surprise even him. "I'm not choosing her over family, Mom. I'm choosing my family. Maya is my family. This baby is my family. You're the one making me choose." That's when Patricia broke down entirely. She started crying, not the delicate tears of a hurt mother, but the ugly, desperate sobbing of someone whose world was collapsing. "I just wanted to protect you," she wailed. "I was trying to save you from making a mistake." "The only mistake," Connor said quietly, "was letting you treat my wife like a threat for this long." Several guests had already left during the confrontation, but those who remained stood in uncomfortable silence. My mother moved closer to me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. Sophia positioned herself protectively on my other side. Even some of Connor's relatives, his cousin Emma and his Aunt Claire, were looking at Patricia with obvious disapproval. "Patricia," my mother said firmly, "I think it's time for you to go." But Patricia wasn't ready to surrender. She turned to me with desperation in her eyes. "Maya, tell him. Tell him you understand I was just trying to look out for him. Tell him you're not angry." The entire room looked at me, waiting. This was my moment to be gracious, to smooth things over, to be the bigger person. For a split second, I almost did it. I almost said what everyone expected me to say. Instead, I looked directly at Patricia and spoke the truth. "I am angry," I said clearly. "I'm angry that you spent weeks investigating my pregnancy like I was a criminal. I'm angry that you called my doctor. I'm angry that you questioned my character to our friends and family. But mostly, I'm angry that you made your son choose between his mother and his wife, because that's not a choice any person should have to make. Patricia's face crumpled. I never meant— Yes, you did, I interrupted. You absolutely meant it. You wanted Connor to doubt me, doubt our marriage, doubt this baby. You wanted me to fail so you could be right. But you know what? I'm not going anywhere. This is my family. This is my home. And this is my child. And if you can't accept that, then Connor's right. You don't belong here. The finality in my voice seemed to break something in Patricia. She looked around the room one more time, as if hoping someone would come to her defense, but everyone just stared back in uncomfortable silence. Richard finally took her arm. Come on, Patricia. Let's go.
As they walked toward the door, Patricia turned back one last time. Connor, please. Don't do this. I'm sorry. I'll apologize to Maya. I'll make this right.
Connor shook his head. It's too late for that, Mom. You can't unsay what you said. You can't undo what you did to my wife in front of everyone we love. So what? I'm just supposed to lose my son? Lose my grandchild? You're supposed to figure out how to earn back what you just threw away, Connor said sadly, and I honestly don't know if that's possible. The door closed behind them with a soft click, and suddenly our house was eerily quiet. The remaining guests began gathering their things, offering awkward hugs and promises to call later. Within 20 minutes, it was just Connor, me, Sophia, and my mother standing in our living room surrounded by half-opened baby gifts and the wreckage of what should have been a perfect day. Connor turned to me, his face pale and exhausted. I'm so sorry, Maya. I should have stopped this weeks ago. But I wasn't thinking about Patricia anymore. I was thinking about the man who'd just chosen me over everything he'd ever known. The weeks that followed were unlike anything I could have imagined. Connor didn't just cut contact with his mother, he dismantled every bridge she might use to reach us. He blocked her number, removed her from our emergency contacts, and even changed our house alarm code because she had the old one. Patricia tried everything. She sent flowers to my office with notes begging for forgiveness. She left voicemails on Connor's work phone crying and apologizing. She even showed up at our house twice, but Connor refused to open the door. The second time, he called the police and asked them to document her trespassing, just in case we needed a restraining order later. I never want our daughter to think this behavior is acceptable, he told me after that incident. If I teach Bella, that family can treat her however they want just because they're family, I'm failing her before she's even born. The hardest part wasn't Patricia's attempts to reconcile. It was watching Connor grieve. He mourned the mother he'd thought he had, the family he'd believed in, the future he'd imagined where his parents would spoil their grandchildren and we'd all gather for holidays. Some nights I'd find him sitting in the nursery, just staring at the crib, processing the reality that his parents might never meet their granddaughter. Do you regret it? I asked him one evening as we sat on our couch, my feet in his lap while Bella kicked against my ribs.
He was quiet for a long time before answering. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that my mother chose to be that person. But I don't regret protecting you and Bella. I'll never regret that.
Richard reached out exactly once, 3 weeks after the baby shower. He sent Connor a long email essentially asking him to forgive Patricia and think about the family. Connor showed me the message before responding with a single line. I am thinking about my family. That's exactly why I can't forgive this right now. The support from everyone else was overwhelming. My mother became even more protective, showing up with dinner every few days and helping us prepare for Bella's arrival. Sophia practically moved in during my last month of pregnancy, making sure I wasn't stressed about anything. Even Connor's extended family, his cousins, his Aunt Claire, his childhood friends, reached out to express their support and their horror at what Patricia had done. I've known your mother-in-law for 15 years, Claire told us over coffee, and I've never seen her like that. What she did was unforgivable. But the real test came when Bella was born. Isabella Carmen Blake arrived on a crisp November morning, 3 days before her due date, weighing 7 pounds and 2 ounces of pure perfection. She had Connor's dark hair and my stubborn chin, and when the nurse placed her in my arms for the first time, I understood why Connor had been willing to lose everything to protect her. Connor cried when he held her. Not just happy tears, but deep, overwhelming sobs of joy and relief and love. "She's so perfect," he whispered, tracing her tiny fingers with his thumb. "She's absolutely perfect." We discussed whether to tell his parents about the birth. Connor had been adamant. No contact until Patricia apologized properly and meant it. But as we sat in that hospital room, our daughter sleeping peacefully between us, he looked conflicted. "She's their granddaughter," he said quietly. "Maybe I should at least let them know she's here." I took his hand. "What does your gut tell you?" He looked down at Bella, then back at me. "My gut tells me that the people who deserve to know about her birth are the people who've supported us, who've shown us love and respect. The people who will love her unconditionally, not the people who will use her as leverage to get back into our lives." So we didn't call them. Instead, we filled our hospital room with the people who'd been there for us. My family, our friends, Connor's cousin Emma, who'd become like a sister to us both. We posted photos on social media and sent announcements to everyone who mattered. Patricia and Richard would find out eventually, but not from us. 2 months later, Patricia tried one last time. She sent a package to our house filled with baby clothes and a letter claiming she'd learned from her mistakes and was ready to be the grandmother Bella deserved. Connor read the letter, looked at our daughter sleeping in her swing, and threw the whole package away. "She still doesn't get it," he said. "She thinks this is about her proving she's changed." "It's not about that anymore. It's about the fact that she was willing to destroy you to get what she wanted. That's not who I want around our daughter." And in that moment, I knew we'd made the right choice.